What I also love is the stories of the young people in that.
Dad, can I have some sweets?
No, what? No, you can't have any sweets now. Go on, go back there. Right. Anyway, what I love is the stories of the young people, talking when they're asked. What I love is the stories of the young people to come out on that. You know, that last girl at the end who's like, you might feel alone, but God never leaves you. It's like, oh, there's a preacher. So cool. Speaking of which, we're going to do a little talk now. So if the kids want to come down the front, I'll just have the table, if that's all right. If the kids want to come and join us, if they don't want to come and join me, then that's fine. Lost my iPad there. Great. So remember, as Vinny said, this is hopefully not for the children, but for all of us. So if we've not met before, my name's Dan, and hi. And so, can anyone tell me what we've done there's something our church has been doing this weekend. Can anyone tell me what happened between Friday and Saturday? Can anyone tell me? Any children? Any adults tell me? Hopefully someone knows. Jossie knows.
Praying.
Praying, yes. How many hours did we pray for? Anyone know? 24 and a half. Sarah is entirely accurate. I realised that we do like 24 hours of prayer and then we tack half an hour on at the beginning of it. So it's actually 24 and a half hours of prayer. Let's advertise it like that in future. It looks bigger. So we've done 24 hours of prayer as a church, which has been amazing. And I want to talk this morning a little bit about prayer. But my first question is, where do you go when you need help? Where do you go when you need help? If you need help with something, where might you go? Just shout out some things. Shout out some. Where do you go? Google.
Dad, can I have some sweets, please?
I'm literally in the middle of talking to these people. You know, no, go on, guys. I'm really sorry. I don't know what's got into her. Really sorry. Where else might we go other than Google? Any friends? Any? Your mum. The Who said the library? You say library. Where else might we go? Any suggestions? Your boss, the hospital, teacher. I didn't hear that. I can't hear what. Search engine, yes. The yellow. Has anyone got yellow pages in their house now? Do you know what I do miss about the yellow pages is they were really good for flattening things. Like, if something got a bit curly, they were really good for flattening things. So we go to different places, don't we? What about if it's the middle of the night? Right, where might we go? If you need help in the middle of the night, where might you go? Ambulance.
Dad's side of the bed.
Dad's side of the bed. Yeah, where might you go? To your parents. Okay, let me tell you somewhere I went in the middle of the night a while ago. Our garage, somebody decided that they wanted to get into it in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, they did, and they broke our door. So I went to Phil Taylor in the middle of the night. He got a phone call at 10 o'clock. He came out with his drill and did all the manly things that I didn't know what I was doing with, and fixed it and made sure no one was ever getting in there again. So we go to different places, don't we? We go to different places. And we're going to look at a story this morning about someone who went somewhere because he needed something, okay? In our all-in gatherings, we've been looking, and some of them about parables. And we're going to look at a story that Jesus told, which you'll find in Luke chapter 11. So if you have your Bibles or your phones or your devices, then turn to Luke chapter 11.
Dad, can I have some sweets, please?
No, you can't. Go on, go away. Yeah, you are going to have to deal with that later. Okay, Luke chapter 11. I'm really sorry about that. Right, Luke chapter 11, verse 5. Let's read this together. It says, Jesus said to them, he was chatting to his friends about prayer, and it said to them, suppose you have a friend and you go to him at midnight and say, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. A friend of mine on a journey has come to me and I have no food to offer him. And suppose the one inside answers, "Don't bother me. The door is already locked, and my children and I are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything." I tell you, this is Jesus saying this, I tell you, even though he will not get up and give you the bread because of friendship, yet because of your shameless audacity, we'll look at what that means in a minute, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need. So, it's the middle of the night. Suddenly, one of your friends turns up at your house, and you're like, he's been on a long journey, and you look in the cupboard, and there's no food. Well, we'd ring Uber Eats, wouldn't we? Let's be honest. But this was before Uber Eats. This was before Tesco Express. When me and Ruth were ill at the beginning of the year, we discovered Tesco Whoosh. Has any of the adults found that? You can get Tesco delivered to you in an hour. It's insane, crazy. But this was before that. As Richard reminded us, adults last week, there was none of this back then. And food was like money. It was that valuable to people. So imagine you look at your cupboards and there's no food. And so you think, right, I'm going to my friend's house. And so you walk down the road and you knock on your friend's door. It's like the equivalent of me walking around to Sarah's and knocking on the door, banging on the door.
Dad, can I have some sweets, please?
Do you know what? Like, just go on. No, you can't have a sweets. Hands up, who's surprised? Trevor asked that question. Yeah, it's like the all, isn't it? It's going to go like that again. I can see it again. And so he goes. And so you go to your neighbour and you keep knocking and you keep knocking. And initially they say no. But then eventually they say, do you know what? Have some food. Have some food and go home. It's just like that. That's what happened. The guy eventually got what he asked for. So the question is, what is Jesus teaching us in this story? What is he teaching us in this story? Is God, I want you to think about this for a moment, is the story actually that God is stingy? That God is holding stuff back? That God doesn't want us to have things? Is that the story, do we think? No. No, because we know God is generous, don't we? We've been thanking him this morning for his generosity. God loves to give us good gifts, the scriptures say. Most of all, God gave us Jesus. He gave his one and only son. So it's not that God is stingy. So what is it? Well, I think there's a couple of things here that Jesus is teaching us. The first is found at the end of that story that we just read. It says he gets the bread because of his shameless audacity. That's a long couple of words. And I love that translation because it sounds great. But that shameless audacity. So anyone know what shameless audacity means? Adults can help. Persistence. That's one way of looking at it. What else might it mean? Shameless audacity. Cheek. Phoebe this morning. That's shameless audacity. It means boldness. It means courage. It means conviction. It means being courageous, being willing to stand out. He came in the middle of the night. Most of us wouldn't even dream of going to someone's house in the middle of the night, unless they're Nathan picking me up for the 24 hours of prayer. Thank you very much, Nathan. But most of us wouldn't go to each other's house in the middle of the night, would we? We'd think that, I'm going to upset someone there. But this guy comes in the middle of the night. He comes with boldness. Phoebe, as has been pointed out, has shown boldness today. She walked right up, right down the middle, didn't care what any of you thought, and she asked for what she wanted. Why do you think Phoebe was so bold? And don't use the word, because I asked her to do it. Why do you think Phoebe could be so bold? Because I'm her dad. She knows who I am. Now, most of you know who I am, okay? But she knows who I am in a different way to most of you. She knows me as her dad. She knows what my character's like. She knows that I quite like buying my kids chocolate sometimes, mainly because I can also get chocolate. Have you ever tried buying a chocolate bar and not buying one for your kids? Exactly. But I like to give good gifts. The other thing is, she knows who she is. She knows that she's my daughter. She knows that she can come to me in a way that none of you can, with the possible exception of John Dunville and Trevor there. But do you know the other thing she knew? She knew there was a bar of chocolate up here. None of you lot knew there was a bar of chocolate available. She knew there was okay, Josh, you knew there was a bar of chocolate. Mainly because there's another bar of chocolate for him as well. But she knew there was a bar of chocolate here. She knew that I had access to the thing that she wanted. In the same way, I think we can go to God with our big, bold prayers. We can go to God with our big, bold prayers. In fact, I think God really likes it when we go to him with them. I think he loves it because it shows that we know who he is. We know that he is a big, big God. He's above all things. It shows we know who we are, that we're children of God. And it shows that we know he is the answer. So we don't have to come to him all timidly. We don't have to come and ask, God, if you possibly, maybe, could you possibly do this thing for me? No, we can come to him with boldness and say, God, I need this. Please provide for me. God, would you do this in my life? God, would you do this in my friend's life? The other thing, and I think kids, you can help us in this, because I think generally kids are bolder than adults. I think generally children are bolder than adults. They haven't reached that point where they think they might offend people. They come with boldness. The second thing I think Jesus is teaching is what I think it was Barry said. And you can find this when we read this story in a slightly different Bible version. And it uses the word persistence. It says this have I got this? In the New Living Translation, it says, he will get up and give you whatever you need because of your shameless persistence. Who knows what persistence means? What? Keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Sometimes we need to keep coming back again and again and ask. Can I be honest? I think part of the reason sometimes we don't see prayers answered is we give up too easily. I think we give up too easily. I think we need to persist in prayer. You know, it's easy, isn't it? We're talking about God moving in our schools and in our town and everything. And we can pray a prayer once and then not see it and we think, oh, God hasn't answered that. But actually we keep coming back to him. It's not the only reason that prayers aren't answered. And I just want to say this now, particularly to the adults in the room. If you are struggling with unanswered prayer, then I really encourage you. There's a great book by Pete Greig called God on Mute, which you can read, and it will help you to understand what God is doing. It helps to look at unanswered prayer. It is something we all wrestle with. If you're thinking, why has God not answered this prayer? You're not alone. We all wrestle sometimes with unanswered prayer. But I think sometimes we don't see prayer answers to prayer because we're not persistent enough. When you really, really want something, you keep asking, don't you? When you really, really want something, you keep asking. Kids, how many of you have started your Christmas lists? Josiah has already started. Anyone else? No? Anyone have any idea what they want for Christmas? Yeah? So there's some hands up in the room. If you get to Christmas and the thing that you want now is still on your list, there's a good chance that's something you really want. There's a good chance there's something you really want. However, how many of us ever are watching something or reading something and we see an item and we think, that's really cool, I want that. And then we find ourselves on Amazon or on Google. I saw a really cool hot water tap the other day. I thought, oh, that looks amazing. That's how cool I am. I am. It was £2,000. I soon decided it wasn't something I wanted. But we see stuff, don't we? And we think, oh, I really want that. And I think sometimes when we're persistent with prayer, it's God saying, do you really want that? Do you really want that? Are you really prepared for that? Are you prepared for the cost that might go with that? At the beginning of the, well, not at the beginning of the year, in June, July time, England were in the football. Do you remember that? England were in the final of the football, and I remember, if I'm honest, shooting a prayer up to God, saying, God, I've been here before. I don't want to go through this pain again. I have a feeling that there were some Spanish people that also prayed that. And do you know what? Their prayer was answered and mine wasn't. Because God can't answer both, can he? He can't all win. But a few days later, I wouldn't say the next day, it still hurt the next day. But a few days later, I didn't really care. I shot a prayer up and said, God, would you do this? And it didn't happen. And then I didn't really care. But do you know what? There are things that I've been praying for days, for weeks, for months, for decades, because I care about them. I pray for my family. I pray for the 3 members of my family that are here and my wider family, that God would look after us, keep us safe, keep us faithful to what he's called us to. I pray for my church. I pray for all you guys that God would move and we'd all know him. We'd all come to know how great he is and we would walk with him all the days of our lives. And I pray for our world that God would move in it, for our town, for Huddersfield. I pray and I keep praying. See, God calls us to keep on praying big, bold prayers. Big, bold prayers. And he says this in Isaiah 62, there's a verse that says this: you who call on the Lord, give yourselves no rest. That's Isaiah 62, verse 6. You who call on the Lord, give yourselves no rest. Keep praying. It shows we trust him. He is the answer to everything we need and everything our world needs. So here's my question to all of us today. What would happen if God answered your biggest, boldest prayer? What would happen if God answered your biggest, boldest prayer? There's a story. Does anyone know who this man is? Bible nerds? Anyone? No. This is D.L. Moody. Okay, D.L. Moody was an American evangelist. And he walked around with a piece of paper in his pocket with a list of 100 people on it that he prayed for, that they would come to know Jesus. By the time he died, he prayed for them every day. Every day he prayed for those 100 people. By the time he died, the story says 96 had become Christians. Isn't that incredible? By the time he died, 96. Now, I think that's a pretty good ratio, that. Yeah, pray for 100 people, 96 become Christians. The other 4 became Christians at his funeral. That's the power of persistently praying big, bold prayers. So what would happen if God answered our biggest, boldest prayers? For our schools, for our workplaces, for our homes, for our church, for our town, for our nation, what would happen? This is what it means to contend, church. To keep coming back to praying big, bold prayers. And to not stop even when we don't see the answers. But keep coming, keep praying big, bold prayers. Let's be a church that prays big, bold prayers. And to be honest, one of the biggest, boldest prayers we can pray is thank you. You know, when we're going through some stuff, one of the biggest, boldest prayers you can keep praying is thank you.